My name is Billy Korando. I think many of you know me by now. For that, I am truly sorry. For those who don't, I am a software consultant with Keyhole Software here in Kansas City. And today I will be talking about Java 9 modularity. So who here, show of hands, has been keeping up on Java 9? So, a few people. That's good. So I can mostly make up my talk. Java 9 is on the way. It's supposed to be released like late July, at least as of right now. Looks like it should probably still make that release, but then there's still questions going back and forth. But with it, by far the biggest change coming in Java 9 is modularity, or it's maybe project name you've heard of, Jigsaw, which has been delayed for, I think, started with maybe Java 6, Java 7 when they initially were hoping for it. Now seems like it's finally coming in Java 9. So, out of the way, the agenda. We're going to kind of look at what's wrong with the status quo. You know, why do we need to have this change? Because it does come with a lot of headaches. So then we'll kind of look at some of the goals of modularity or the Jigsaw project. Then we'll kind of explore modularity in Java 9. And then finally, I have like an extremely simple Spring Boot Hibernate app. And we're going to kind of look at a little bit migrating to Java 9 with it. So to get the most out of this talk, feel free to ask questions whenever. Sometimes I can go a little fast. If you think I'm going a little fast, please let me know. And finally, you'll see at the bottom left-hand or right-hand guess corner, there is a link to this. I have it published out there, this presentation, so don't feel the need to scribble down every link or something you see on here. Just write down that link, and it's on every slide, or almost every slide, so just makes that a little bit easier for you.
We can publish it on the meetup here too.
And yeah, that too. So, as I mentioned, Java 9 is still under development. I actually gave this, more or less, this presentation to my company about a month ago, and in that month there has been a few changes. So there might be some changes between now and when it's released in July. Shouldn't be much, but this is just kind of just, letting you know, do not take everything I said as set in stone, but maybe as set in wet cement. So modularity is a big change. I have been kind of studying and reading up on this, putting dozens of hours in. So if you find this overwhelming, you are not alone. If by the presentation you feel like this, know that you're not alone. But also, again, feel free to ask questions at any point. I will try to answer them as best as possible. I'm not a complete expert on modularity. I think I know most of the good basics and a lot of the common things people will be running into, but it's just a huge thing that I can't claim to be a complete expert on all levels. So, with all that out of the way, what is wrong with the status quo? Like I said, we'll kind of see later on that this is going to be causing a lot of headaches, especially when I kind of show some of the migration. Why do we need this change? So there's three kind of major issues: Classpath Hell, weak encapsulation, and I guess bloat in the JRE. So Classpath Hell, it's, I guess we'll see. This is a class path, or this is what a path should look like. This dot to here, to here, to here, and then this scribbling spaghetti is a class path. Can anybody here tell me if I have multiple of the same versions of a jar, or am I missing something, or do I have the wrong version? Nobody can. Nobody here can tell me that. I don't, but if you think this is I found the biggest monolithic application I've ever found to show this off, no. This is the class path for the extremely simple Spring Boot application, which granted that does bring in a lot of dependencies, but this is an extremely simple application, and look how big the class path is on it. Now imagine an application with any real complexity, and it's going to get even that much larger, and then also with years of, maybe months and years of maintenance behind it, in which you may have upgraded some versions and you could have multiple versions. I mean, who here has run into that, infamous class not found, class def not found issue at some point in runtime? Yes. Not a lot of fun when that happens. So that's one of the goals of modularity, much more reliable configuration that it hopes to try to solve.
Hang on, I'm still typing that in.
Exactly. So then the second major issue that modularity is trying to solve, and this is actually, so there's a very limited to how much I can actually migrate the application I'm showing off because there's literal issue walls I ran into. So, and this is actually showing off one of the walls I ran into. So like this highlighted code, in big text, this is not part of the supported API. Do not use this, yet some people use this. This might be some cause for concern. And then sure enough, this is the exception I ran into when I was trying to do some a second level of migration. There's a gradient of migration to Java 9. And yes, it ran into saying invalid constant type 20 so it's looking for this new constant type down here. And then this code in the Java Assist library just wasn't set up yet to handle it, even though they have done some Java 9 work to it. But for this is Hibernate uses Java Assist to do a lot of its class generation at runtime, and this is what it ran into. So, goals of the Jigsaw project. Kind of told you the problems and how maybe try to fix them. So, more reliable configuration. Like I said, we're breaking Java up into different modules, and those modules then can actually declare what they need. And they can enforce these dependency constraints at compile time. So now, instead of being that class not found when you're running the application, like at runtime, it will actually fail at compile time. Stronger encapsulation. So the issue I showed you earlier, like that shouldn't happen. Like modules can say that you don't have access to this. Again, not quite true. As you'll see in some of the runtime arguments that they're providing to ease the process of migration, you can kind of get around that by allowing access even if that module doesn't allow it. And then finally, and I won't really be covering this just because, again, this alone is a huge subject and that's going to be confusing enough, but you can make smaller artifacts. So like right now they have some like different smaller profiles for Java. Like if you're running it, on a system constrained platform, like maybe a cell phone or like a drone or something, that you can get like a smaller image of the JDK to run, so you don't have to bring everything in. But if you need just like one class outside of that, then you need to bring in the next bigger version or the entire JDK. With the new JLink tool, you can set up your application and then create an image, kind of like Docker to an extent, based on exactly what you need. So that, again, if you're running on a memory constrained or resource constrained hardware, it will use up less of it. Like, for example, there is the rt.jar, jar, which everybody uses. It's one of the major ones, but everybody only uses like a very small amount of it. But that entire jar is about 64 megabytes in Java 8. So, that could be a big issue if, again, you're on a memory-constrained platform or resource-constrained platform. So, let's kind of get a little bit into Java 9 itself. So, there are three types of modules, unnamed modules, and this is kind of like the lowest level of migration. And unnamed modules, they export all the packages. They require all the modules, so they'll bring them all in, but they cannot be declared as a dependency. Then the next level is what's called an automatic module, and the name is calculated based on the jar file name. And for example, like here, Spring Boot, 1.51 release, then they just actually take that down to Spring Boot. And one recent change is there's been like a lot of fighting on this, and actually there's actually ongoing huge arguments between the Maven maintainers and then the Java architects, because the Maven maintainers, they're kind of concerned over like this naming, like Spring.boot isn't such a bad one, but like let's say you just had like a security, module. Like a lot of people in Maven Central might also have security or actually like comments or something like that. And like the Maven people are saying like, hey, if we don't include like the reverse domain coordinates, we're going to run into issues and collisions. So there's kind of this ongoing debate. It looks like the debate is kind of settled. Like Mark Reinhold, he's one of the chief architects for Java, that they're just going to say that the people who publish to Maven just need to be careful about the modules they publish, that they have to make sure that they're doing the reverse domain. But I don't know how that's going to work out. I'm sure Spring and Rob has opinions on that. And so anyways, a little bit more then on automatic modules. They too export all the packages in the module. And they will also automatically require all modules, but they can be declared as dependencies. So you can have another module that you wrote declared explicit dependency on Spring.boot. And then finally, there's explicit or named modules. And these are the modules that are actually named with the new module info jar or module info Java type. And then you can manually go in there and declare what you export and what you require. So what do I kind of mean when I'm saying like all this exporting and requiring and all this? So this is what a module info Java file would look like. And so let's kind of look through this. So we have this at the very top here, module declaration. And so this module's name will be com.foo.bar. And you can do additional modifiers on this. You can call this like an open module. And if you do an open module, that means all the packages within this module can be open to reflectivity. So this would be like for like Hibernate. You would probably, if like this is where the module is storing all your model stuff, you would maybe want to open it up so that way Hibernate can go in with its all of its reflection, and also like Spring with all of its reflection to do its magic. Next down, we have the exports clause. And this is declaring what packages the module will export. And so this is where encapsulation comes in. So currently, if you make a class public, even though it's public, you may not really want it to have be accessed by anybody else. For a lot of people, if you're just like building web applications and the application you're building is not going to be dependent upon anybody else, this isn't really important. But for somebody like Rob or the people who maintain Java, this is really important, because what I showed earlier, in which Hibernate and other third-party libraries were depending upon portions of class of libraries or the JDK that nobody was ever expected to be accessing. And so this has just caused weird issues in which, because everybody's accessing this, the maintainers have to maintain this code, and they can't make changes to it even if they want to, because then they'll break everybody. So by kind of enforcing this, saying you only have access to the service and the model packages, you're not going to, even if the service impl package has some public classes, you can't access them if you have another module that depends on com.foo.bar. Next down, we have the provides clause, and this declares a service that the module fulfills, and the implementation that it fulfills us with. And then just a little bit further down, we have the uses clause. So who here is... Sure.
I just had a question. So is Spring going to be able to inject that? Is that impl actually exposed?
So how does Spring, does it use a service locator internally to...
It's a beam factory internally, so it's essentially a factory.
But is it? That was one thing I was actually trying to look up. Would it actually be able to like handle this? Because right now Java 9, so it works with the service locator class to kind of go through this. I don't know if, have you heard how they're going to be handling this, or do you know?
Yeah, last time you...
Oh, sorry, and the question is, was, what, sorry, was...
How will Spring handle, like, will it be able to access
Okay, yeah.
actual implementation to inject it into, say, your own
Yeah.
class?
So pretty much is, yeah, would Spring App be able to access this implementation of, like, would Spring be able to know how to look up food service impl if you're using Java 9? Sorry.
So in order to do that, you're going to have to open up your package to reflective inspection.
All right.
And it's no different than Hibernate at that point.
Okay.
Basically, all your packages are going to have to be able to be reflectively accessed, because that's how Spring's instantiating all your stuff. Okay.
So yes, the answer is going strictly with Spring. A lot of, at least this initially won't work. I don't know if we have 5.1 or maybe never, just because that's going to be just a huge change to Spring. And then this is a user clause. So this is saying that this module is using this interface of a service. And so just kind of go into what this is. Is anybody here familiar with Solid? Or I've heard of it before, Solid programming? So it's an acronym, and these are the 5 different principles that make it up. Single responsibility, open close, and we won't get into all of it because that's a huge conversation in and of itself. But most directly, this is the uses and provides, most directly helps strongly enforce dependency inversion. So like here we have person controller, and it depends upon person service impl, but this is bad development because directly implementing on the implementation means like you can't, testing can't, easily put in a mock implementation, particularly if you're actually newing it up directly. You can't switch it out easily with other implementations if I have like a MySQL DAO, but I want to instead use a Oracle DAO because you really want to pay a lot of extra money. So dependency inversion set, and so pretty much this is high-level modules should not depend on low-level modules. So here instead what dependency inversion says, person controller should actually depend on an on an interface, and then that interface should then, or the actual implementation depends upon that interface. And then this is then strongly enforced with the module. So you have this module here that encapsulates person controller, and then another module that actually encapsulates person service and person service impl. So then here we see, module com.foo uses person service, and then module com.bar provides person service with the implementation of person service. I'm sorry, that's a little bit hard to read. But now, person controller, actually, it can't even see altogether person service impl, so like you can't accidentally have like a developer depending directly upon an implementation. And then finally, we have the requires clause. So this is saying what modules this module depends upon. And some additional modifiers is you can do transitive. So like you can do requires transitive Java SQL. So if another module depends upon com.foo.bar, it doesn't, and it also needs java.sql, it doesn't also need to include requires Java SQL. It just gets that implicitly because of this. And then java.base, that has like object, string, class, like all these, the core elements of Spring. Every module implicitly requires Java base. Yes.
How does it handle versions? Can you go back down to the requires?
Yeah, I will in 1 second. I realized I forgot something. So back to the experts clause real quick. There's also a couple of additional modifiers. So again, kind of going back to like Hibernate. So like our model, will be where we maybe have like all of our JPA goodness. And we may only want that to be open. So you can just do opens to module, and that only can be reflectively accessed, or its private internals can be accessed. You can also open a module to another module, and then no other modules can have reflective access to it. So you can do like opened to org.hibernate. So you don't just open up a package to everybody. And so then, Dan, you had a question on versioning. And I think recently, the kind of looking through the dev emails, I saw is like the version they're kind of allowing is you can have like, before it was all supposed to be, modules are supposed to begin and end with Java letters. Now they're going to allow numbers. So you can have like commons langs 3, like with the actual number 3 at the end, and then also commons lang. But like if you're thinking like commons lang 1.5.2 or something like that, and 1.5.1, I don't think they're allowing any of that, or discouraging at least.
But you're still going to run into a problem with com.example there, because com.example has 1.1, 1.2.
That's just.
And then I write my code expecting 1.2 coming in. Like, I mean, this doesn't sound like it's trying to solve dependency management per se.
It's not trying to replace Maven. It's just trying to have a more reliable configuration, saying I depend upon. It's trying to get around the, like I said, the class not found issue. Like if you reflectively are trying to bring something in, or trying to think of like.
So, okay, it sounds like you could maybe solve class not found, but you're not going to solve method not found. Because like, I ran into this today where I was expecting string boot 1.5, but something else in my package was including 1.3, and it happened to be that 1.3 was loading up, and it was a method not found, right? It didn't exist in the version that it was imported.
Yeah.
Want to solve that, use OSGI. I'm serious. I mean, they solved all of it, but
So the concern, just to kind of get what the sidebar is does this handle dependency, or does this handle versioning? And the answer is really no. This is not trying to resolve or handle the dependency management that like Gradle or Maven is trying to do. It's trying to make sure you have a reliable configuration of that stronger coupling of saying of what this code actually depends upon, and to address things like class not found. And yeah, I don't know if it can really get to method not found. I don't think.
So the answer was already kind of stated is JDK 9 modules is not trying to be OSGI. So
Yep.
OSGI can handle multiple versions of the same jar under Classpath at the same time to keep them isolated. But JDK 9 modules is not trying to do that.
This is mostly to the end of the slide deck. These kind of make up all the different resources that I've used. Also, I guess a couple other names, you'll kind of pick it up from like the Twitter, is Sander Mock and Paul Baker. They're the writers of that book. They have a fantastic presentation. I think that's the last link on modularity. That presentation kind of lasts for 2.5 hours, and even then, you kind of still feel lost at the end of it. At least I did initially, just to kind of give you an idea of just the complexity of this. But I would highly recommend it, and their book is also really good. And also another guy, this CodeFX, Nikolai Parlog, he has done a lot, like he's really kind of getting deep into the Java 9 world, and he has some great examples, which I'll actually show here in a few minutes, on Java 9. So those are a couple of really great resources to Java 9. And then, of course, you can go to like java.net.jdk9 that has like all of the information on Java 9. So, migrating to Java 9. Does anybody have questions before I get into this?
is it required in Java 9 or is it optional?
It's somewhat required. So, well, I mean, modularity is a required part, but doing that module info thing, no, that's not explicitly required. It's highly recommended, and that's actually going to be part of the presentation. Yes, it will be considered an unnamed module. Or it can also be an automatic module, kind of depending on how you want to handle that. Yes?
So would an existing application be able to take an historical Java 9 upgrade without having to do some coding work?
Yeah, sorry. So the question is, would an existing application have to be able to upgrade to Java 9 without having to do some coding work? And that's actually what we're just about to get into. And there's probably going to be some upgrades, though. Like I said, it's a gradient on upgrading to Java 9. You can just do just all kind of like unnamed modules, and then using some command line flags to kind of get around some of this encapsulation stuff. But in the end, if you want to get to the full Java 9, if you want to actually be using explicit and/or named / named modules, it will probably going to be requiring upgrading to more recent versions of libraries like Spring. You're going to have to upgrade to Spring 5 or eventually 5.1 to be able to properly use all of Java 9, or at least the modularity features of Java 9. Anything else? All right. All right, so here is a and is that big enough for everybody to see? Good? Great. CD. Sorry, need to get out of here. All right, so this is the super simple Spring Boot app that I was talking about earlier. It's really pretty much doing nothing. It is just it's using Spring Data REST, and it's just one model, and then relying on Spring Data REST to build out a controller for me. And I'm really not going to demonstrate it because it's, you guys have all seen a get REST call. So, just to show, this application, of course, runs in Java. Whoops. All right, so as you can see, I am using Java 8 here, and then I have my little run script. And as you can see, it just deploys, or it starts up just fine without any issue. Now, if I change it to there we go. So now I am using a early access edition of Java 9, and if I run that run script again, I get a nice happy exception. And so this is going to be an issue you're going to see a lot. I think there's a few other ones. There's illegal access, inaccessible objects, but pretty much this is getting back to what I was talking about earlier with the strong encapsulation. There is something in Spring where it's trying to access something down into JDK to do reflection, and it's saying, hey, this and that module is only maybe exporting it, or maybe not even exporting that package at all. Regardless, the Spring libraries do not have reflective access into it, and so it's failing there. So let's check out. All right, so as I mentioned, there's gradients of this. So I mentioned like Classpath, it's going away, but kind of also a little bit like encapsulation, as I'll show you in the run script I have, is only sort of going away. So initially, you can still rely upon Classpath to run this. And let's just go on ahead and let's see. That's right. So now again, our application runs. So this is what our this run script looked like initially. You know, ignore all this top stuff, that's just building it. But here, we're just calling Java, we're adding that long class path, and that class path I showed you on like a second slide, or third or fourth. This is it up here, so we're just putting this all on class path, and then we're also adding the output directory, and then we're just calling the main class. And so this has also changed a little bit, but at least initially, this is how it changed. So again, we're adding class path on here, but now there's these runtime flags called like add opens, and what this allows you to do is saying this package and then this, so this module, java.base, and then this package, or this, package within java.base, we're saying we're opening it up all to these unnamed modules. And then like all these jars here, these are all they're on Classpath and they're automatically being generated as unnamed modules. And so these unnamed modules, they're just having like some randomly like, hashed out name that like you just can't depend upon it. I think it can change, or it's just probably just calculated just based on the hashing of it. But all the same, you can't depend upon it. But you would have to add like probably several of these. So, so we have like lane.invoke being opened up to all unnamed modules, and then Java base lane being open to all named modules, and then we're also adding additional module onto our module path, and then that actually gets us to running. A recent change done though. So one concern about this is, again, a more complex application, especially like a large monolithic application. It may have to end up adding a whole lot of these flags, and eventually maybe ops or developers might start to get frustrated and just add like a huge amount of them, like they just maybe copy and pasting until they just stop getting those illegal access errors. And then the concern was, would this be like a whole maintenance issue in which it will just be kind of forgotten, like what all those flags were doing, and they'll just be kept there. So to kind of, and then it would just be such a struggle for the migration. So one thing the Java architects added was this new command line flag called permit illegal access. And pretty much what this does is adds opens to all modules. However, this is going to be, at least what they say right now, only temporary, but at least I've also always learned temporary fixes often become permanent solutions. So they claim they're going to pull this out in Java 10, so that's going to be kind of their stick to try to get everybody onto modularity. Who knows if that ever actually happens.
There wasn't sort of a hint to them, the fact that they had to add that might think the design might need some tinkering.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. You should actually get onto the dev mail and send Mark Reinhold a response to that. That would be really funny.
Yeah, I'm sure I would add disability.
Did I? That was just a mistake then. Yeah, I'm not perfect. Just so you know, I am not perfect. I am. But one thing they also do, though, and then there's actually some debate on this as well. So they allow you to do this that one command line flag to get around all this. But when actual illegal access is happening, they will just try to say, "Hey, illegal access is happening," and then print that out to the console. So that's their just weak attempt at to try to get people to actually try to do maybe more specific add opens or actually upgrade to using correct modules and everything like that. Again, I think that's just going to be ignored by a lot of people. But hey, that's what they're trying to do. And I think, like I said, some of the debate is whether or not even like the add open should have that illegal access. Or I think some of it's also even if it should be removed altogether. It's kind of going back and forth. And that's, again, kind of why I give that warning that some of this is not set in stone. There's still a few months before it's going to be released, and so some of this stuff might change. So anyways, this is now running on Java 9, but it's using all unnamed modules for all the stuff in Classpath, and we're not getting any of like the nice naming our applications and modules, so we can actually start doing some encapsulation and stuff like that. And we also don't get any of the cool configuration stuff that can get us around the class not found issues. So. And so I did have I had to add modules there. So I still had to add that, this Java XML bind onto the module path. Yeah, exactly.
Having the illegal access, do you get an advantage in having smaller memory footprints still?
No.
There's no advantage.
Well, like I said, the benefit here, the kind of question was, is there any benefit the permit illegal access gives you? And the benefit is just that it's easier to do than doing all the adds opens. So like with the add opens, the benefit there is the areas that you maybe need to work on a little bit better. With the permit illegal access, this is just like a quick workaround, so that way, because like I said, this is a very simple application. It's doing basically nothing. And so I only had to do a couple of add opens. Granted, the actual application itself is simple, but I'm relying on Spring Boot, which of course is Spring, and then Hibernate and Spring Data Rest. So I mean, it is bringing in a lot of advanced stuff. But like a large monolithic application, they wanted to get it running in Java 9. They may be having to add a huge amount of add open statement. And like I said, the concern within the going around was, people aren't going to remember this. It's just going to be such a long string, and it's just going to be a maintenance nightmare. So doing this permit illegal access as a way to make it even easier to upgrade to Java 9.
So what is Spring going to do to make that easier since they're the ones in this case that seem to have the modules opened up?
Well, it wasn't just Spring. It was Spring and Hibernate and a few others. And for that, you're going to have to upgrade to Spring 5. I know you can give more, and Spring maybe even 5.1 is when you're going to have like true full support.
Yeah, Spring 5 is going to be like an early access JDK 9 support because we don't know exactly when JDK 9 is coming out. And
Yeah.
We want to get Spring 5 out. Spring 5.1 will have comprehensive support. What that entails is somewhat yet to be determined because what Java 9 modules is going to be is somewhat to be determined.
Yeah.
So this is all kind of, as Billy said,
Yes. Yeah, you would. Huh? And sorry, and so just to kind of, just kind of recap a little bit, what Rob said was Spring is releasing 5.0 just because it's a little bit still up in the air when Java 9 will release, and then also more up in the air on exactly how this module specification will all work. So when is Spring 5 supposed to be released?
July.
So, I mean, technically, I guess it may be released mostly concurrently with Java 9, but, you know, they can't wait until Java 9 is finalized. They want to continue their work. So Spring 5 will have, you know, kind of like early access support for Java 9, but Spring 5.1, whenever that's going to be released, that will have much better support for Java 9. And sorry, then back to your question was, even once we get to Spring 5.1, for example, like will we still have to do these hopefully with like Spring.5.1, and then if you're also like having the latest version of like Hibernate, and like you go out and you get all the latest stuff, then no, you should hopefully not be having to do the well, I guess it kind of depends. It really depends upon the maintainers of those libraries. Can those libraries still do what they need to do without having to do the adds opens? And I guess that's really an open question. You know, really so much of Spring is based upon reflection, on doing reflection. So, you know, that may not be a case of where you may have to do an add opens. And I'll actually get into it with named modules in my next example. You may still have to do that.
You can open it explicitly to Spring.
Yep, exactly. And I'll show you that a little bit as well.
I have another question for you.
Sure.
So you have add modules, JavaX combined. Like, why don't you have to reference the SQL module? Like, that's not default in the JVM, right?
I wrote this all together a little over a month ago, and now I was having to reload this for this presentation. I can't remember the explicit reason why I had to do the add modules. Bottom line, I was getting a...
My question is, why didn't you have to do other add modules? Like, because SQL, I thought, was not part of the standard Java. Like, if you're within Java 9, you only get Java lang, and you do add modules for the pieces so you can have the smaller footprint, right? So you only need those modules. But
Yeah.
this is a Hibernate application. I was just surprised not to see like, SQL in that list.
And real quick, so the question is, why do I need this add modules java.xml.bind? Sorry. Why do I need this java.xml.bind, but I don't need other modules like java.sql? And I really wish I could give you a better answer to that. I think maybe because some other module maybe in there is bringing in java.xql, and that's why it's not being needed to be added, because maybe nothing explicitly declares a reference to this. At one point, I think I knew the answer to this, but I've kind of forgotten it since then. Any other questions before? All right. If I can remember how to spell monolithic. So in this example, and I think once a lot of people get to Java 9, again, for a lot of us as developers, we're just building a web application now, or what we're going to be writing, it's not going to be, nobody else is going to be depending upon it, at least at a programmatic level. Maybe they interacted with it at RESTful endpoints. And so for a lot of us, we're probably going to just be building out a monolithic module. Our entire application is going to be a single module. There's not going to be a benefit to having these set of packages or just this package be its own different module. And to kind of look at that, there. Yeah. So here, and actually I just cheated a bit. I just did this open module RESTful people, and again, I think this is going to be a lot of the cases of what we as this, normal application developers are doing. There's not going to be much benefit in saying you can have access to this, package, but not this one. You're just probably going to open it up to all reflectivity just because it's going to be much easier to do. So by putting open module up here, all other modules have reflective access to this module. But if you wanted to be more explicit, you could do or you can even do, sorry. And so what this would mean is that only Hibernate, the Hibernate module would actually have reflective access to this. Lost my train of thought. But yeah, so that would be a way of maybe more locking it down. And also, I guess for what it's worth, there is benefits to this. This is actually reading in the dev mails today. One thing that Reinhold said, that like a third of all of like the critical vulnerability exploits that Java has had would be actually solved if they had strong encapsulation. So at least definitely down at the more library level, this has benefits. So let's just go back to what that was before. And then here again, I'm also saying exactly the modules this all depends upon. So, like I said, I have unfortunately ran into a brick wall. And did Chrome crash on me, or? There we go. So yeah, I mean, this is a brick wall I ran into. I can't get around it because Hibernate and Java Assist haven't been updated to work with this, and I couldn't figure out how to fix their code because these are much smarter people than I am on how to fix it so it could actually work. So this application won't work, but we can still at least look at it to kind of get an idea of Java 9 stuff. And we can also get into this run script to see some of the stuff you would have to do to also handle some of the migration. And that's a new error. Well, it wouldn't have worked anyways, so we can kind of skip that part. But, so this is, so now not just rely on having everything being unnamed modules and having like what I'm actually being an unnamed module. Like see here, of course, this is becoming a explicit module called RESTful people. And I'm putting it in this. This doesn't matter. The name of this does not matter. I just called them mods. But I'm setting this module path for mods. And so all of these jars, instead of being just hashed out names that he can't depend upon, are becoming automatic modules. And like I said, the names would be like this, Java Assist would become just Java Assist, all the 3.2. All that's just dropped off. And then this is also a little bit kind of what you're getting into, what you would probably have to end up doing, is saying that java.base this would have to open up the Spring Core or Spring Beans in order for it to do its reflective access to do dependency injection. Questions?
So I apologize if I'm asking the same question.
It's okay.
You have add modules in this case, but you also in your module info, you're already saying like you're using those modules. So is there a difference between saying you're using something and adding the modules at the command line? Just so you don't know what's on.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, I can't quite remember the answer to that question. If you asked me a month ago, I may have been able to answer a little bit better. Unfortunately, I've been busy with a lot of stuff from work. And again, the question was why did I have to name out so many different add modules? Or do you know, Rob, offhand, if?
Why you have to name them versus what was the?
Or why am I having to do the add modules flag in here? I can't quite remember offhand.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
That makes me feel a little bit better that you even needed to know. I think it's because like something obviously has a dependency on it. I think it could be, so all the automatic modules, they require all the modules, but maybe not. I can't remember. Yeah, why?
Is it because those are the ones that you're using opens for?
No, that's not it entirely, because like Java.instruments, I'm adding that. Let's get to remember. Any other questions that I maybe know the answer to instead? Yep, what's up?
My goal with project Jigsaw was always that you would have a smaller JVM footprint.
Yes.
So have you actually seen that in reality yet?
No. So most of what like this talk is, so the question was like one of the questioner, like one of his big thoughts of the benefits of Jigsaw and this modularity is having a smaller JVM footprint. And I just focused mostly this talk on just handling the migration. But yes, that is one of the carrots to all in this forest of sticks to modularity. So there's this new tool that's coming in Java 9 called the JLink Tool. And what it can do is, based upon this whole module path you build out, it can, and all the requires and all that done, if you have all this stuff explicitly laid out, it can then say, okay, you're not using java.sql. No module is using java.sql, and then when running this JLink, it can just, toss it out, or it can, obviously there's going to be a lot. So that is how then you could have a smaller JVM. And so that creates an image that you can then just run that will have, like I said, a smaller resource footprint. Does that answer? Yep, great. Other questions? Nothing else? All right. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I kind of at times think that this is trying to introduce like a profound concept way too late into the life cycle. I think a big reason behind why this is being introduced is stronger encapsulation, because a lot of the Java architects were upset that parts of the JDK were being used that they didn't want to be used, and that creates maintenance issues for them. That said, I do see how this could be beneficial. Again, for somebody like Rob, for a lot of us, all this stronger encapsulation seems extremely academic, but for people like Rob or people who maintain public libraries that a lot of people use, saying, hey, no, you don't have access to this just because this class is public doesn't mean I actually expected anybody else outside of my library to use it. So that gives them the ability to completely rewrite this, those classes or those packages, because they have that confidence that nobody else is depending upon it. Unfortunately, in the sake of getting people to migrate, they've added stuff like add opens or add illegal or permit illegal access, which is going to kind of, it kneecaps one of the big advantages that they're trying to go for with this. So, like I said, it's just going to be kind of interesting. Hopefully, all this modularity doesn't end up killing Java with it, because it's going to be such a pain to upgrade to Java 9. Because also they ended up pulling out a lot of the really cool features like value types and currency API from Java 9. That the benefits from upgrading to Java 9 aren't as big for all the pain you have to go through. Other questions? Yep. What's up? No, go ahead. Please keep asking questions.
Do you think maybe Eclipse will help or IntelliJ with maybe the generation of this?
Yes. Okay. Great question. So the question was, will the tooling support help a lot of this? And the answer is, I believe, yes. I know IntelliJ. I'm quite certain yes. I know IntelliJ just recently released a full release of Java 9 support. And so, yeah, a lot of tooling. So you will end up kind of declaring, oops, I shouldn't have actually done that. So once all the tooling catches up with this, you'll still probably end up declaring the module boundaries. You'll be declaring what you export for the module. But when it comes to all this requires stuff, I think a lot of the tooling will take over. When you make a reference to Java SQL in this module, it will automatically add this requires clause to it. At least that's kind of been what I've been hearing. I think that's something that almost kind of really has to happen. Otherwise, people are just going to go freaking nuts trying to figure this out. And indeed, that kind of happens already with Maven and Eclipse, where if you make a reference to a library that it's not yet pulled into Maven, it will automatically pull it in, which it also can be frustrating at times. Because you pull in the wrong string utils, and all of a sudden you're pulling in references to Groovy that you were never intending, you would never ever want in your application. To no offense to any Groovy people in here.
Do you know what the encapsulation is, any improvements in JavaDoc, so you can have a public JavaDoc that doesn't have your internal classes that you're not exposing, and an internal one that has all your public classes?
So the question is, with the stronger encapsulation, will that be any improvements at JavaDoc? No, I don't think it would. I do know they're making some improvements to deprecation and how you can say this is deprecated in what version, but as far as I'm not quite sure how at least encapsulation would necessarily.
Well, you have your internal, Java 8.9 now will have internal classes that they don't want people to use. It won't be exposed through Jigsaw. And they would want documentation internally, but when they publish the public API, they wouldn't even want it to be there because people can't even get to that. Does that make sense?
So, I guess it makes sense. So again, the question is just because with the stronger encapsulation, there may be some JavaDoc that for APIs that aren't really truly publicly accessible, that are only for the internal Spring team. Would that not be shown? I don't think so. It's not, I don't think, trying to accomplish that. If you go into that source file because it's pulled in, that should still be there. And that would still be beneficial just because, oh, this is failing because of this reason, even though I don't have direct access to it. But no, that's not really the attempt of what they're trying to do with modularity. Any other questions? Thoughts, concerns, opinions on modularity? Yeah.
In a module, and you're only exposing 5 of those to the outside world, you want JavaDoc to automatically do those 5 for external world, and then JavaDoc to do your whole everything for your internal world, right?
Yeah. I assume that's something that they'll want to have.
I'm not following with.
No, you know how you syntax the code, right? You run JavaDoc on it, you call your JavaDoc documentation play, right?
Oh, so you're talking like an automatic JavaDoc generator, or? Okay, so I guess you're talking. So at least whenever I've used JavaDoc, I've kind of written that stuff out manually. I guess you're saying there's a tool that. Go ahead.
I'm going to try to rephrase the question and see if I'm right what you're saying. The question is, right now, in prior versions of Java, you can say, I only want to export JavaDoc for public methods or private methods or protected methods.
Okay.
And a lot of times people say, just export my public methods because that's all that's explicit to the outside world. But in JDK 9, you're limiting it even further, and that might not just be public ones, it might just be the ones that you're exporting.
Yeah.
And so the question is there updated aspects to the JavaDoc to only generate the JavaDoc for the exported class? Is that correct?
Okay. So to try to rephrasing just to get it on video, the question is the JavaDoc tool, is it going to be updated to account for this encapsulation that it will only export the JavaDoc for packages that you're actually exporting? I don't know. I haven't really looked into that. I think I saw in some of the JEPs some updates to JavaDoc. I think that was mostly for HTML5 support. So I don't think it is being updated. Have you heard, Rob? Or
I haven't heard anything about it. But,
yeah. Yeah. Sorry. That question now does make sense. I haven't used that JavaDoc tool directly a whole lot. I actually do try to write JavaDoc for some of the library stuff I do for internal libraries, but yeah, I haven't done that publishing JavaDoc tool a whole lot, so I didn't even think about that. I haven't heard anything about that. Any other questions? Otherwise, it's Miller time. All right, thank you.